We've had so many different times where we would get calls from new clients that said, hey, we filed an insurance claim, we have leaking in our roof, our ceilings are destroyed. The adjuster was at our house for not more than 20 minutes, and then we received a denial letter in the mail. What do we do next?
You are listening to the Insurance Corner podcast. This podcast is presented by Florida Public Adjusting. Tune in to get tips, information, and valuable pieces of advice on how to best handle common problems homeowners face with insurance providers.
You're sitting down at the dining room table, enjoying a peaceful dinner with your family. All of a sudden, you feel raindrops falling on your head. Your first reaction is like, oh my gosh, what do I do next? Your home is a place that you should feel safe and secure from the outdoors. Sometimes there are elements that are beyond our control that creep their way into our home, such as water, rain, hail, the list goes on. So here are a few steps on how you could mitigate your damages and mitigate your loss from any roof damage that you might have, interior water leaks from the ceiling, walls, after it has occurred. Some of the most common questions that I receive as a public adjuster is, if there is water coming into my property and my ceiling is damaged, is this something that is covered? Does your homeowner's insurance policy cover roof leaks? So this is a little bit of how you could understand the policy language and to know if you are properly covered for this loss. Insurance policies in Florida are very particular in how they write the language of like roof leaks or water damage to ceilings, interior, or anything like that. Basically, the way their language states is that the only way a roof leak is covered is if it is from an opening in the roof that is caused by a covered cause of loss. So what that would mean is, just a few examples would be wind damage. You would have a fallen object. Believe it or not, a lot of the times when I get up on roofs to examine roof damage to the property, we would see bullet holes. So there's actually bullets sitting in the roof. More often than not. It's unbelievable. So that is something that would be covered. We had a client that had a coconut tree that was just a little bit above the roof, and the coconut fell and actually damaged the roof. And you see an indentation of that coconut. The coconut was still on the roof. So we made sure to document it, take pictures. Water was coming through the roof. And in this particular instance, it was a covered loss because they had coverage for fallen objects. So if the coconut fell, caused the created opening, and that created opening is covered, well then that would open coverage for the interior water damage that they had in the property. And we were able to get them the replacement of the roof, also any interior damages that they sustained, and she was a very happy client. Now, obviously, if there's a storm of some sort and it damaged the roof, even if they cry wear and tear, if there's wind damage or anything that's caused that storm created opening, or anything else that is a covered cause of loss that caused the opening in your roof, then we would be able to adjust your claim as such. I'll give you now a few examples of things that might damage your roof and could be covered by the insurance carrier or your homeowner's insurance policy. Storm damage, wind damage, hail. You have also fallen objects if you have an open peril policy. We actually had an insurance claim where it was like an event. I think Canada, or there was two different armies that were flying over Florida, and something from one of the jets fell. Yeah, seriously. So we had an insurance claim where there was a Canadian, I want to say Canadian, I can't remember the nationality, but I'm almost 1,000% sure it was Canadian. It ended up on the news. The Air Force flew over South Florida, and a piece of the jet it fell off. It physically fell off and fell into, thank God everybody was fine, but it fell through the roof of one of my clients' homes, and they called us right away, and here we go into a house, and there's a massive piece of a jet just sitting in there, in their living room. So we were able to get them properly identified. But that's an example of something that would damage your roof. Now, how would a roof leak be covered from that? Well, if it damaged your roof and then it rained after that, and there was an opening over there, which that would be a covered cause of loss. That would be covered opening which caused water damage to your property. That would be an example of a different thing other than just a storm that could affect your roof. So my roof is leaking. What do I do? The first thing that you should do is move everything out of the way, make sure that the water is not damaging anything inside the property, and try and contain the water in buckets or whatever containment that you are able to find to hold the water. One thing I cannot stress enough is that if you are experiencing damages to your property, make sure that you have proper documentation. Take out your phone, take as many videos and pictures of the damages as possible. If you're looking up at the ceiling and you see that your ceiling starts to bulge and is dripping through, it's a very, very good chance that you have water pooling up in between your roof structure and your ceiling. What I would recommend is to get a screwdriver and just poke it through carefully. Make sure you have one of those containments underneath, whether it's a bucket, a pot, a pan, or a garbage can, and slowly relieve the pressure, because if you do not do that, it might erupt and it might cause additional damage where you'll have a mess with drywall. It also becomes a hazard. So please make sure to relieve that pressure. If you're experiencing roof leaks, go grab a tarp, call a tarp company, have them put up a tarp for you to seal the roof. It's a temporary solution until the insurance company comes out and the claim is paid, so that you could do the proper work that you need to replace the roof. That is called mitigating your loss and mitigating any further damage to your property. It is in line and an obligation of yours to make sure that you are compliant with the policy. And what that would do is it's a temporary solution until we are able to get in there and help you with the recovery in order for you to get the replacement and move on with your life. They also have tarping companies that would put on what they call a heat shrink wrap, where the longevity of that is a little bit longer. So you would probably have about a good year until you have to replace the roof. When you're in the middle of an insurance claim, it is not recommended to replace your roof until after the insurance company does their investigation, which is in their rights. The best way to avoid any further damages would be to use one of those blue tarps, a heat shrink wrap, or get a proper roofing company to do a repair. That way you are also in line with your policy and you're mitigating your loss so that it does not further damage your property. Prior to getting involved with an insurance company, you want to have representatives. You want to have somebody that's been in the industry for, we have a combined at Florida Public Adjusting over 20 years. Have us come out there, stand by your side, represent your claim from A to Z. We'll take care of you. We'll make sure that you're properly identified. All of our services are at no out-of-pocket costs. We work strictly on a contingency basis, and we only get paid when you get paid. If you filed an insurance claim on your own and you have ceiling damage or roof damage and you're about to meet the adjuster, what do you do? So the first piece of advice that I would be able to give you is be cordial, meet the adjuster. They're not there to attack you. However, also be smart and aware that they might take whatever words you say and twist them. So show them the facts of the loss. Take them to the rooms where you see the visible damage. If they need to inspect it because that's their policy, let them inspect the roof. What I would do is get on the roof with the adjuster. If you're able to get on the roof and you have a ladder and you're capable of getting onto a roof, you don't have fear of heights, definitely get onto the roof, because once they're out of your sight, you have no idea what's going on. And I'll just tell you from experience that I was on a roof with an adjuster, and if I hadn't been there, then maybe I wouldn't have known, or maybe I would have known, but he broke tiles on the roof, and it was an accident. Obviously it was an accident, but he broke tiles on the roof, and I was able to document it. Not to go against him, because at the end of the day it was an accident, but the insurance carrier is responsible for that. And so they need to pay. So that's why I always say follow them into every room they go through your house. Make sure that you don't have to breathe down their necks, but make sure that you're aware of what they're doing. And you're documenting if something doesn't feel right or sound right, or they're aggressive, which it shouldn't be that manner. But if it is, then make sure you document that. That's going to affect your claim going forward. I was on a roof once with an adjuster. We got off the roof. Everything was fine. He wasn't the nicest person, but that's okay. It's his prerogative. At the end of the day, we had to get into the attic, and to further document the sheathing of the roof. And so we got into the crawl space of the house, and we're walking on the beams of the trusses, and he slipped, and one of his feet just went right through the drywall, and he's hanging on the side. Thank God he was okay, but it was a disaster. And just to add to that disaster, the homeowner was an esthetician and was giving a facial to her client right where so she is sitting, she's lying down, she looks up and she sees this massive foot inches from her face. So that was just a mess. But, that was obviously something they had to cover because he damaged the property, which we got them to cover. And he made a full recovery, so he's fine. Do I tell my insurance adjuster specific areas that are affected by the water damage as a result of my roof or ceiling damage that I have in my home? Yes. Make sure that you walk through every area that it was affected and that it's documented by the insurance adjuster. If there's something that he decides or she decides that the insurance adjuster does not want to include into that, make sure that you tell them this was as a result of this loss, and make sure that you document it. You take photos of it. Because my own personal property, the insurance adjuster came out to my house and said, I am not taking a photo of that. And I'm like, I'm going to record you saying that you don't want to take a photo of the damages that I'm pointing out to you. And yes, given I'm a public adjuster, however, I'm still a homeowner. At that point, you need to treat me like I am anybody else and document the damages that I'm pointing out to you, because I know that this was a result of the loss that I claimed. So, yes, to answer the question, if you need to show your insurance adjuster all the areas that are affected by that particular loss, yes, please do that. Another common question that I get is, should we be vague in our answers to the insurance company? My answer to that is very simple. List the facts and only talk about the facts of the claim and the areas that are damaged to the property. So it used to be a little bit more common, but we still receive it today. The insurance company would like to sit down with the homeowner. The adjuster from the insurance company would like to sit down with the homeowner and take a recorded statement. It's common, it's in line with the insurance policy, and you are obligated to do it. You have to do it. When you go through a recorded statement, for some reason people feel, they need to share their entire life story. It's not the case. Don't talk about your dog or your uncle. Literally just list the facts. Say the areas that were damaged. I had water damage to my ceiling in the kitchen. The drywall is damaged. The plaster is damaged. The paint is damaged. List the facts. The dining room, if the water went down the wall, your baseboards are damaged. If you have a flooring that was affected, list the areas that it was affected. Remember, you're on the offense. You're asking them, say, look, these are my damages. I need you to pay for it. So once you have that in mind, it'll ease the burden of the fear of giving a recorded statement. One of the things that I would highly recommend is if you are experiencing damages to the interior of your home, or you're, noticing spots throughout your ceilings or your walls, and you can see your baseboards start to buckle and your flooring start to go, haywire, I would recommend getting onto your roof and documenting it correctly. And then especially if you're with the insurance company and the insurance adjuster wants to go on the roof, you need to get on that roof and you need to take pictures and document it with him as well, or her. Now, if you can't get on the roof, I would highly recommend that you get an expert to make sure that they're by your side and by the insurance adjuster's side every step of the way to make sure that it's fully documented and properly documented for your insurance claim. Because at the end of the day, when you're filing an insurance claim, you need to be able to tell a story. You need to show the facts of the claim. You need to show the events of the claim. You need to prove X, Y, and Z. And if it's done correctly and it's justified, then you're definitely going to be paid for your loss. If you're walking through your property with your insurance adjuster and you're asking them to document areas of the home that you know are damaged from the loss that you've claimed, and they decide that they don't want to do that, they refuse to take photos. So my first thing that I would do is take out my phone and video document exactly them refusing not to document the damages correctly. If they refuse, well, then you have that on camera. And what I would do at that point, or if they don't allow you to record, what I would do at that point is say, please kindly leave my home. I would email the adjuster right away. I'll email the insurance company and and CC the insurance adjuster on that email immediately and document the events that took place. And you could do that in bullet points. Insurance company came to my house at 9 a.m. At 9:10 we went here. When it came to me asking them to document a specific area and they refused, put that in a bullet point. When I took out my video camera from my phone and I said, I want to record you because you are not treating me correctly and I feel like you're biased against me for whatever reason, take out, and the insurance company refused, you have that documented and you're sending that straight to the carrier. At that point, I would, at any point, I would hire a public adjuster, but specifically at that point where you're like, you know what? Everything I've ever heard on the media about hiring a public adjuster or seeing Josh's podcast, they were absolutely right, and you need to hire us right away. So I would get on the phone, give us a call, and we'll be by your side to make sure that it is documented correctly and it is claimed correctly and you do get paid. A recent story of a client that gave us a call. They had visible roof damage. They had visible wind damage to their roof. Furthermore, they had also interior damages. Now, this particular property had two different roofing systems. You had a shingle roof and you had a flat roof. The shingle roof showed visible signs of wind damage, along with also the flat roof. Under the shingle roof portion of this home, there was damage to the ceiling in multiple areas of the kitchen, living, and a dining room. And then also in the flat roof portion, you had some damage to the ceiling as well. Now, the desk examiner from the insurance company gave me a call yesterday, and we had a nice chat on the different coverages for this particular home. And it got a little bit comical when we got into our conversation because this particular insurance policy only covers damages on the interior if there is a covered cause of loss that caused the opening in the roof. Our back and forth conversation went like this. He said that we are going to open coverage for the roofing system on the shingle portion. However, we're going to deny the roof coverage on the flat roof portion because he said that is, in their opinion, it is wear and tear. But the funniest part of it, the interior damage, which is underneath the shingle portion, he said he's not going to cover because that didn't come from a storm-created opening. Now, if you're following this story, I know it's a little confusing, but they're covering the wind damage on the shingle portion of the roof. They're denying the water damage on the interior portion of the shingle roof, which they are covering, and they're denying the flat roof portion and whatever is in there at all. So I said, isn't it ironic, right, that the carrier decides to take the position? And the guy started laughing on the phone. He's like, it sounds like an Alanis Morissette song where, isn't it ironic? He said, look, I'm just doing my job. I'm like, that's fine. And I'm not going to argue with you. Just please do me a favor, send over the undisputed amount, and then we'll take the next steps to make sure that our client gets fully indemnified for the shingle portion, which was clearly damaged, which they acknowledged, the interior portion of the shingle side, which is obviously damaged from that side, and then also the flat roof portion, which was also damaged by wind. And we're going to have to get our experts in there to verify, and not only verify if it is, if it's not, it's not. But in our opinion, in our experience, you have wind damage on one portion. There's obviously wind damage on the second portion. It's just their position. So this was a pretty comical event that took place yesterday, and it was just a story that I wanted to share. We get calls, from all different stages of a claim. Usually it's the first stage where we are the ones to inspect it and then contact the insurance company and file the insurance claim on behalf of the homeowner. There are other instances where the homeowner would contact the insurance company and file the claim on their own and start the process by themselves. Some things, just, tips that you could have if that's where you are and you've already contacted your insurance company and you're waiting for the adjuster from the insurance company to show up. You could start by taking photo, before even contacting them, just taking photos, which we always recommend. Start to mitigate your loss, whether if it's leaking inside, try and move whatever furniture or whatever you could protect out of the way and then contain the water with either buckets or whatever containers you have. Tarp your roof if you know the area where it's coming from. If you're going up on your roof, document the roof, take pictures of the roof. But every single instance where the insurance, and this is why we get so many phone calls after the fact when the homeowner decides to file a claim on their own, it's because when the carrier comes out, they do one of two things. We've had so many different times where we would get calls from new clients that said, hey, we filed an insurance claim. We have leaking in our roof. Our ceilings are destroyed. The adjuster was at our house for not more than 20 minutes. And then we received a denial letter in the mail. What do we do next? We come in there, we document it. We do our best to make every client of ours feel comfortable, to know that they're in good hands, and that we're going to make sure that their claim is adjusted correctly. And if there is coverage, we will find it and we'll make sure they get paid. All of our services are on a strict contingency basis. There's absolutely no risk and no out-of-pocket costs to give us a call and help us represent you to make sure that you get paid from your insurance carrier. Once the insurance check comes, there's a whole other issue that you have to deal with the mortgage company. The mortgage company needs to make sure that their investment's protected. So they see there's a check. They're like, okay, what's damaged at the property? They want to make sure it's properly addressed. So if you don't know how to deal with the mortgage company, they said we have two parts to what we do. We deal with the carrier, we get the insurance check, and then we deal with the mortgage. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Insurance Corner. My name is Josh Solomon, coming to you straight from the offices of Florida Public Adjusting. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.